As we discussed in the last video, selecting your material type is crucial to the product lifecycle. The next step, after we've selected what material to use for each component of our product, is to bring it to life through manufacturing. Manufacturing can be done in many ways, shapes, and forms, but it's very expensive. Manufacturing typically takes up to 40% of the product's overall cost. Manufacturing is defined as the conversion or generation of materials into a product through chemical or physical processes. When you think about manufacturing, your mind probably is imagining some big facility somewhere in China where your product is made. This isn't usually the case. There are a lot of different setups for manufacturing. A lot of them are on a small scale. So let's look at some places where things are manufactured. At Pike, we have a facility that allows us to work with wood and metal. This is called a small job shop. A flow shop is a manufacturing assembly line. You've probably seen this in movies before. A linked cell shop allows one piece to flow from one factory to another. A project shop is used for something that's too big to be moved on an assembly line. A project shop is often seen that's built around the object that's being created, for instance, a boat. Lean manufacturing facilities are relatively new in the grand scheme of things. Lean manufacturing facilities use complete automation, where the people who work there serve as supervisors for a group of machines to make sure that the manufacturing process is done correctly. My brother actually works at a lean manufacturing facility in Indiana. Facilities that manufacture chemicals for commercial and industrial purposes are called continuous process shops. So there's a lot of different places where manufacturing is done. But inside of each of those facilities, there are a series of tasks that are being done in order to create your product. The material that's brought in needs to be manipulated in a variety of different ways. So it's no surprise that we've got quite a few different ways to modify a material. Metals can be manipulated in quite a few ways. Metals can be cast in a foundry. The metal is heated in what's called a crucible, or kind of like a hot cup, until it melts. It is then poured into molds and it's pressed to shape. Metals can also be formed in a lot of other ways. It can be rolled and forged, like in blacksmithing. It can be extruded or stretched, or it can be cold formed, which is when it's shaped at room temperature, rather than being heated up. Metal, pieces of wood, and other materials can also be modified in a couple of ways. Turning is a process to make a material have a circular shape. This is accomplished with a machine called a lathe. Material can also be placed in a mill to be cut to the specific shape that it needs to be made to through continuous progressive machining. The Pike Metal Shop actually has an automatic CNC machine. You send a 3D model from a computer and it will actually create that model in the machine. Milling can also be done manually, but on an industrial scale, most milling is done by a computer. For less precise cutting, materials can also be placed in a machine for shearing or breaking unwended material away. Think expensive scissors. Some of the more well-known procedures are drilling and abrasion. We all know what a drill is, right? Abrasion is using something like sandpaper to mold something to shape, or to smooth its edges. After a material is shaped, it's often treated. Treating can be done in a variety of ways. Treating is done to alter the properties of a material. For instance, metal can be heat treated to give it additional strength. Treatment can be done with electricity, heat, or chemicals. Once we've finished shaping our individual parts, it's time to bring them together to make the product. Joining can be done a lot of different ways. If we were to join something in the classroom, we would probably use glue. Glue is an adhesive, and industrial there's a lot of different types of glue that we can use. Instead of using glue, we could also do a mechanical join with screws, nails, or even by welding the two parts together. If we're talking about electrical components, we could also solder pieces together. Soldering allows us to connect wires on a circuit board so that electricity can flow where it needs to be. The manufacturing industry today is massive. It makes up a huge part of our market. A lot of the things that we use today are manufactured in some way, shape, or form, including some of the food that we eat. as an engineer, you can make a lot of money in the manufacturing world. So if any of what we're talking about this unit interests you, you should look into a manufacturing engineer.